Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, it's time to take a look at Flygon. Now, a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago, some point in the not too distant past, I told you that I believe that Flygon GX was positioned to start being really very good in the not too distant future. And not everyone believed me with this, and that's okay. My theory wasn't just predicated on Flygon being a fighting Pokemon and hitting good weakness right now, though it is an excellent time to be hitting a fighting weakness. It was also predicated on the fact that Flygon can survive an awful lot of hits from most of the best Pokemon in the format. Well, someone over in Japan has gone and done a win with Flygon, so it's time we have a look at their specific list and whether Flygon can actually be good, or whether it is just another one of those times where I'm getting overly excited about a cool card that is not actually quite as good as I want it to be, which has happened once or twice in the past. So having a look at Flygon then, it's only got the one attack, but it does everything we need it to. Well, one main attack, we'll get to the GX in a minute. 3 fighting energy, 120 damage. If there is a stadium card in play, you do 240 damage and discard the stadium. Now, 240 will get almost any Pokemon V. There's the odd exception like Wailord, but generally speaking, you'll get any Pokemon V. And you'll get all the single prize Pokemon. And you will get any GX tag teams and VMAXs that are weak. So there's only really going to be VMAXs and tag teams that are not weak that you're not one-hit KOing here. Although, spoiler alert, we're playing Martial Arts Dojo, so you're actually, if you're behind on prizes, hitting up to 280, which will get any relevant tag team. So essentially, the only thing you're not getting a one-hit KO on here are tag teams that are not weak. But it is very much worth bearing in mind that you give up 2 prizes and VMAXs give up 3, so you're still winning the prize trade in that regard. Now there is an attack for free energy, a GX attack, 220, and it goes through any effects of your opponent's active Pokemon. So if your opponent's trying to block you with something like an Acidui, for instance, you will be able to get a cheeky KO on them. And similarly, you can just use this to do a nice bit of damage if your opponent isn't playing a stadium and you've not been able to find one, etc. If there isn't a stadium in play. So we like the attack is good, but we also like the ability, Dusty Defense. As long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, all of your Pokemon take 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks. It doesn't just protect Flygon, though it does protect Flygon, it also protects all of your benched Pokemon and Flygon. And this is awesome. This basically means that your opponent, they might be trying to play a spread deck. They might be playing something like Salamence that does 30 damage to each of your Pokemon. With one of these in the active, it does nothing. But it also gives Flygon an effective HP of 270. So something like a Zacian, something like a Pikachu and Zekrom, and there's a whole bunch of others, just aren't getting a one-hit KO here. It's just not happening. And I do need to go slightly out of order here and mention Stone Fighting Energy. Now, Stone Fighting Energy is basically a double shield energy. It reduces damage done to the fighting Pokemon it's attached to by 20. And this is where it starts getting really silly. Because something like an Eternatus V Max that maxes out at 270 damage, well, you've got an effective HP of 290, and that's if you've got only one Stone Fighting Energy. You can play more, and if you play more, they will stack. And now, all of a sudden, you're just surviving so much. I mean, one of my favourite interactions here, Vikavolt is really good around in the format at the moment. It does 50 damage and stops you playing item cards. If you've got a single Stone Fighting Energy attached to a Flygon, Flygon does 0 damage. Like, literally no damage whatsoever. They'll still block items, but they do no damage. This is why I think Flygon's so good. Although we do also need to give a shout out to the Vibrava here, which has got an ability that basically says when it's on the bench, it cannot be affected by supporter cards. This will protect you from a few things, but what it really means is that your opponent cannot use boss's orders to drag a Vibrava from the bench into the active and KO it before you evolve. And it's also got the brilliant name of Obnoxious Whirring. Please do not sleep on how ridiculous this ability can be. This can be the difference between you getting your Pokemon set up and not. This means that your opponent just cannot be gusting up your stage 1s and KOing you. That is redonk. Now, there's only really one other Pokemon which is important in this deck, and that is Silvally. And incidentally, the list I've been working on from the lovely John Beck does agree that it is Silvally. Now, Silvally here is largely played for the ability Disc Reload. Once during your turn before you attack, you may draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. Now, what's important here, as we're going to see in a minute, there are other supporters we want to be playing that don't draw cards. So what we really want to do here is have an option so when we're not drawing cards, we can still be drawing cards. That's where Silvally comes in. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a decent attacker in its own right. 2 energy and it does 120 damage if you play the supporter this turn. It's a 1 energy cheaper than Flygon and it's a stage 1, not a stage 2. So it can be a very good attacker in the early game. And it's also got a situational but sometimes useful GX attack. 2 energy and it gets an instant KO on any Ultra Beast. And there's a lot of decks around at the moment that aren't playing Ultra Beasts. Fine. But if you come across some deck that is playing Ultra Beast, this actually becomes a really nice, weird little specific situational, but actually awesome GX attack. Now, in terms of the other Pokemon, it really is just support. There's 1 copy of Dedenne, discard your hand, draw 6 cards. Good for getting you set up and drawing cards in an emergency. And then there's a couple of Prism Stars, ditto to evolve into any stage 1. And we're not playing Rare Candy in this deck. This deck is not a Rare Candy deck. We don't really care about Rare Candy. So, stage 1s are very good. And then Diancie to do an extra 20 damage. Yes, it is awkward that both of these are rotating out, but I don't think them rotating out breaks the deck by any stretch of the imagination. In terms of energy, we're playing mostly fighting energy here, as you might expect with a fighting deck. But then we also play 4 copies of Stone Fighting Energy, because as we're seeing and as is becoming very apparent, this is going to be a 4 of in every fighting deck. Or at least in the vast majority of them, because taking less damage is good. And along similar lines, we're playing Big Charm here as well. This is about survivability. A lot of people have looked at Flygon and gone, well, it's a fighting Pokemon, but it's a bit too slow. Whereas one of the real secrets behind Flygon is its survivability. You take the ability that lets it take 30 less damage, then you add in a single Stone Fighting Energy, then you whack a Big Charm on, and all of a sudden, this Flygon has an effective HP of 320. 240 base plus 30 for the ability plus 30 for the Big Charm is 300 plus 20 for the Stone Fighting Energy is 320. And you can stack more Stone Fighting Energy on. When you then remember that Flygon only gives up 2 prizes and basically has HP equal to the highest Pokemon in the game, well, 2 Stone Fighting Energy will literally do that, but you get my point. And it's got a weakness which is not that commonly played, and all of a sudden you have got one of the hardest to KO Pokemon in the format that is also hitting a phenomenal weakness. Now, in terms of Pokemon search, we've got Quick Ball to go and get your basics, and Cherish Ball to get your GXs, because this is a very GX heavy deck. We've also got Pokemon Communication that swaps a Pokemon in your hand for a Pokemon in your deck. In terms of stadiums, obviously we're playing Martial Arts Dojo, we've already mentioned that. And in terms of supporters, we've got the usual, Professor's Research and Marnie, that are very good at drawing cards. Professor's Research, discard your hand, draw 7. Marnie, shuffle your hand, put it on the bottom of your deck, as does your opponent. You get 5 cards, they get 4. Nice for disruption. Worth noting that because you're not playing stuff like Rare Candy here, Professor's Research is less horrible than it would be in your average Stage 2 deck. We're playing boss's orders to gust Pokemon off the bench and get them in the active to KO them, but this is where it gets a little bit stranger. We're playing red and blue is phenomenal in this deck. It's really, really important. Red and blue lets you evolve one of your Pokemon in play into a GX from your deck, so you search your deck and then evolve, and you get to attach 2 basic energy to it. And this does a couple of things. Either you grab yourself a Silvally, and a lot of the time in the early game this is what you're going to want to do, because then you've got a draw engine ready for the game as well as an attacker, or you evolve your Vibrava into a Flygon, while searching your deck for 2 energy and attaching them, and then hopefully you attach Stone Fighting Energy as your attachment for the turn, and then you're ready to attack. It is how the free energy cost on Flygon is not actually that prohibitive. And then, of course, because Flygon's so hard to KO, you may well have a couple of turns to manually attach for the next one. But we've also got the other new supporter card here, Pokemon Breeders Training. Choose up to 2 of your Pokemon. For each Pokemon, search your deck for a card that evolves from that Pokemon and put it onto them to evolve. So if you're lucky, Pokemon Breeders Training will get you both a Silvally and a Vibrava, bearing in mind you've then got a draw engine and a Pokemon that cannot be boss's orders into the active, and then next turn you play red and blue. Oh, look how that worked out. We've then got a few little one-offs. We've got ourselves an ordinary rod just to recover a couple of our Pokemon. Might end up being a little bit important. Karate Belt to reduce our attack cost by 1 fighting energy when we're behind on prizes. Also really good because you are relying on fighting energy for Flygon here. And then there's a copy of Tag Call, which searches out your tag team Pokemon or tag team supporters. Yeah, it's there to search out your red and blue. And what's really cool here is you can actually use it to grab a pair of red and blue, and that's kind of cool. Although if you wanted to mix up the deck list and start mucking around with some other tag team supporters, this would help you do so quite nicely. I did a video about Flygon a little while ago. I've made no secret of the fact that I love Flygon and think it is great post-rotation, and this is something that I really think we need to start taking a little bit seriously, though I am well aware that not everyone agrees with me. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, you've got a deck list to get rolling with, so if you want to start playing with this, here's your chance. For now, I want to know what you think about it, and I want to know how seriously you're taking it, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. Oh, and shout out to Talonite X for the deck list. That dude's awesome. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.